Okay, hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. We are here with Geoff Reyes. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
What's up, man?
yeah, what's going on?
Mean Dean.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have you on here. For people who don't know Jeff, I know you as the UBL guy and one of the people that's part of Breaking Canada. It's really
Yeah,
sort of pushing that forward. So yeah, really excited to have you here and just talk about that stuff and get a bit of your background too.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I like you. I like your podcast, man. Your stuff. You push a lot of content and yeah, you're doing a good job, man. I love it. It's great conversation. Of course,
Trying.
all my homies are on that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, do you mind just giving a little background of who you are and maybe how you got into breaking or like the hip hop culture,
Sure,
throwing
sure,
events, stuff
sure.
like that?
Um, I'm Jeff Sir Blur, the Naked Knight. Um, from Scarborough, Toronto, Ontario. Um, I started breaking in 94 or 95. I was 14. And when I was 13, I saw a Bag of Tricks on TV, like many Canadians, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. It was really cool. So I was grade 8 at the time, or grade 7 at the time. I don't remember.
Mm.
But yeah, our crew is Unreal Ethics out of Scarborough. Um, and we also had a hip hop crew, Fifth Element, MCs, DJs, graffiti artists as well, beatboxers. Um, yeah, heavily influenced in the mid 90s to late 90s by the Toronto scene, of course, and whatever we could find on VHS. Um, and Yeah, just grew up um, really looking up to like the Bag of Tricks guys,
Hmm.
Flex and Gizmo and Glizzy and all those guys. Uh, did a couple battles when we were like really young, and then kind of moved to like when I was like late high school. I was like, how can I make money on this stuff? You know what I mean?
I'm sure a lot of
Because
people
like
had that thought.
right? So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, just do shows, looking for shows to do gigs and auditions and stuff, and just booking a whole bunch of stuff. So we kind of moved to like the performance route,
Hmm.
a lot of stage shows and um, stage productions and all that stuff. Um, and then kind of, I guess, late 2000s, I got married, and then had a daughter, and then myself and my brother Glenn, we were like, we should do something. We have to do something. Like we're adults now, and like what do we want to do? And then we sat in a coffee shop. It was me, Glenn, Flex, Glizzy, Ray from our crew. And we're like, let's just create breaking league, call it something, and have a champion. Because when we were kids, like we wanted to be the champion, and like we wanted to have a championship belt and like create like a promotion.
Hmm.
We wanted Disney on Ice for breaking. We wanted WWF for wrestling for breaking.
Hmm.
We wanted main event breaking.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was like, how do we get the guys paid? You know, Everything was crew battles, right? Big, large crew battles, battle of the year, like b-boy unit, all that stuff. A lot of crew based battles. Um, but splitting prize money among 10 members, 20 members got nothing. So we really focused on the one-on-one
Hmm.
solo, trying to create superstars, and that's where the UBL started. 2011 as a night, 2010, 2011 as an idea, and it's since it's since evolved to more community based event based product. Um, we're now called UBIL, because not necessarily more a breaking league, but more a mentality
Hmm.
of being your best self.
Hmm.
Being the illest version of yourself.
Right.
So, um, and that's kind of like the evolution of where I was and how I kind of came to be in terms of getting involved, making stuff happen, bringing people together in the Toronto scene, and trying to create something that I never really had um, as a kid.
Right.
Where I would like scrounge through newspapers and whatever just to find gigs. You know, so yeah, that's kind of how it started. You know.
Cool. Yeah. Man, that's a lot of things that you went through.
Yeah.
that you've
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, we got
That's
through a lot of
cool.
stuff.
Yeah. Um, I guess a good place to start is, can you talk a little bit more about just like UBL and yeah, like how, yeah, just speak about your
Yeah.
experiences with that.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. It's as simple as saying meeting up, talking about our dreams, like big goals, like big picture things, right? And sitting at a Timmy's, having multiple meetings with just the fellas and just shooting the shit and just saying how are we gonna do this.
Hmm.
Um, so I think back in 2012, it was very local, right? Tried to interview many of the guys that we wanted to highlight in main event breaking,
Hmm.
and see who would be down to do this. We sat in a hotel room 10 years ago. This time, I guess, yeah, around this month. We're like, okay, come to a meeting. We want to present an idea. We're gonna have some food, some drinks. And it was like a dozen of the guys in the Toronto area, and just presented the idea of main event breaking
Hmm.
and saying, guys, we want the money to go into your pockets, and we want to create um, the notion that there can be superstars, like how I grew up having superstars, you know,
Right.
um, and on many different facets, right? Like there's like wrestling superstars, there's like basketball superstars, and then to me there was breaking superstars,
Hmm.
you know. So how can we create the next few superstars in Canada? Because Canada needed a boost. We felt, right. Um, and main event, first main event was in 2013. And the idea was not to have an open competition, just exhibition battles. Um, and we started main event one, UBL main event one, on a voting basis. Like, post a photo of these guys. Whoever gets the most votes is in the main event, and like let's let's formulate our card. We had a card with Noah versus Burn. We had Ills versus Quantum, and the main event was Styx versus Ontin.
Hmm.
And we also had an open tournament at the same time. But the purpose of it was just to have like a party, and not necessarily um, breaking competition, but party and 4 to 5 feature battles, feature performances. Um, yeah, and we did that for a couple of years. Eventually, got a belt made. Um, and we crowned the first champion Ills in 2014 at Manifesto, and just kind of went from there on like an event based, wherever we could program events, wherever we could afford to create programming and create events to highlight these individuals. And we're still trying to, right? We're still, of course, trying to create this promotion. It's not easy, but we do it. We do our best to put people in a main event headliner role.
Yeah.
Um, and we're going to keep going, until someone says stop. So
So are the events still in that same style of like a party, kind of a party, and then some exhibition battles?
uh, so far, no. They've primarily been, breaking program.
Okay.
Um, the Rock Harder series, the main event series, has been like a tournament based event where we have the 2-on-2 or the 3-on-3, where we always feature the 1-on-1 championship in a invitational format, semi-final format, where we do have a. It works best where you have like a crew battle where we can have 30 to 40 crews competing, but the actual main event is the 1-on-1, like the semifinal. Those
Like the
guys,
invitational kind
the
of thing, right?
invitational, right? And
Right.
in the past few, we've had the 1-on-1 invitational. We added past couple years we added the invitational Bonnie and Clyde to get more B girls involved,
Hmm.
right? So
Cool.
we've always just wanted to have like a promotion, the 1-on-1 champion, and we were thinking at a time like, do we just create a tag team championship with
Should.
like with like, and we were thinking like routines only, like only, like no commandos, nothing, like not one after the other. Actually, like just routines, just because choreograph bad choreography and all that stuff was getting huge, right?
Right. Right.
Studio dancing was huge, and they're busy, and it's busy, right? So like, but we wanted to keep it with breaking, and in the Toronto scene and Canada, like, routines is big, right? It's fun to have different routines, something where you have a partner and come up with something
Hmm.
dope together, right? And um yeah, we never got to that level where we can have dedicated duos. But yeah, it was always follow the path of whatever promotion, wrestling, boxing, UFC promotion you can try to emulate in like breaking form.
Yeah.
That's the goal always. Hopefully uh, we can get there, but we're still trying to get there.
Yeah. This kind of thing has like come up a lot. I think there's so many like parallels between breaking and like wrestling or boxing or UFC, like fighting and stuff like that, that people can draw inspirations from, and a lot of people should. Like it's really cool to see you guys doing that. Like when I first heard about what you guys were doing with UBL and, yeah, I guess Rock Harder main event stuff like that. I think I went to one when our crew came out to.
You went to the first Rock Harder, right,
Was it the
Phil?
first one?
The
I think.
first one. The reason why it's called Rock Harder because Drops called it Rock Harder because we held it at the Hard Rock, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it was the after party for Pan Am for Battle for the North at the time, right?
Right.
So that was the after party after a whole week of breaking with Pan American Games. Battle for the first Battle for the North. Um, Myself, Drops, Benzo, we had all coordinated all that,
Yeah.
right? And the after party was like, okay, we have a champion. Like, let's do a championship, and Ills, Burn, Saya, Phil, and then at the time Ills was the champ, and then
Yeah.
Phil won it, and we've tried to continue that, defending, reigning, defending
Yeah,
kind of
I
like,
I like that
you know,
idea too, because like thinking about these major championships that they have, like biggest one I guess, or the most well-known one is like Red Bull BC one, right? Or it's one of them, right? But that one, that's like whoever wins, they don't have to come back the next year and like defend the title, right?
yeah,
So I think that idea of someone wins the title, and it's like it's not even like a yearly event. It's like maybe you have a few events a year, but they've got to defend it each time. And it's like, yeah, it's just a cool idea. I've
Yeah,
seen I've seen some things like that where it was like even they didn't have like a champion necessarily, but it was like you would, I think it was like you win the battle and you get money, but then now you're like you've got a target on your back, and then people are coming after you and that kind of thing.
yeah,
So it was like throughout the night.
yeah.
Those the kind of things are interesting. The more
To me,
people need,
the
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, to me, the belt signifies a lot, and
Yeah,
it might be a generational thing. It also might be a cultural thing based on how um how all of us kind of grew up with what a belt actually signifies. I'm thinking maybe like the younger gen, like the millennial gen, don't recognize a belt as like that's crazy. Like it's like the best thing, and it's actually really fun too because like a lot of the older guys that come to the jams and the events, they pick up the belt. They're like, oh, look at me, and then they they do all their impersonations and Macho Man or whatever, Ric
yeah,
Flair and
yeah,
stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, that because and that's exactly it.
yeah,
Like we
yeah, yeah.
display it. It's like, look at that, and everyone's like, hey, look at that. That's so damn cool. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm,
no, right?
yeah.
But like but the talent right now, it's like, yeah, I got a belt. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Ah,
and it's like,
you gotta,
oh,
you
like
gotta,
I wish it's
yeah,
hard to like put that on like a crazy on a high level now,
yeah,
because even in regular promotion, boxing, UFC, WWE, there's several belts,
hmm,
and there's also several belts that nobody cares about,
yeah, yeah.
right?
That's a problem. Like
Right?
when you have too many, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if many more have like continuous promotions. Like Red Bull has a belt every year, but that's a trophy.
Yeah,
To me, a belt is a defending championship.
yeah,
Um, so we're really gonna try to encourage more communities to think about this idea. Like, put this on. Like try it. Why isn't this done in Mexico, in like high like wrestling cities or countries,
yeah.
in Japan and Mexico and in the States? So
Well, we actually, me and my buddy Mark, we were toying around with that idea too, of like very similar thing. I didn't know like the details of how UBL was actually like structured completely, but yeah, it was like very similar ideas and similar thinking of having that kind of thing of like a belt and different divisions and things like that, and having it more just in a small invitational set up battles and more so a party vibe than like straight up competition and stuff like that.
yeah,
I think it's a great
yeah,
format, and like it totally reminds me of maybe like the old days of wrestling when you had the territories and stuff,
hmm,
and you could have people like traveling around and like, oh, you have this is the invited guest or something like that, and then
yeah.
whatever.
It's very 80s. It's
Yeah,
a very, but now they're still very independent. So like I do draw inspiration from that that uh I guess business model. It's hard. It's like I can't see how small towns can do these things. Like, and
yeah,
it's just so like, who funds this stuff? And it's like
yeah,
still looking to try to make it work and get someone to hold on, or get someone to like jump on like the support for this.
yeah.
It's hard. It's hard.
I think that's a really big issue with breaking specifically, is like, yeah, how do you get people to want to invest their money in this, either from like a, I don't know, an investor perspective, or just people in general, like the general audience of wanting to go and spend their money on this event, or spend their
I'll,
money on the merch that you have or whatever.
I'll tell you this much: like anybody that goes to an event, they love it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
and you just have to get them there,
yeah,
and it just takes like, if you think about it, if there's 100 competitors, it takes one different friend
mm-hmm,
each
mm-hmm,
to make it pretty good, pretty sustainable.
mm-hmm.
Um, And if you can get over, like, if you can get at least 50-50 composition of audience, then you're basically paying for yourself. Like,
Hmm.
how many competitors in an open format have people that want to support them, and it doesn't it's they don't feel like they want to like invite people to come watch them do prelims and maybe top 16 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
um but they should, it's their performers. Like, everyone's a performer, like they should,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's hard. It's a different mentality now. I know that when I was anytime that I perform or whatever, was I was spamming people all the time,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
hey, come to the show, like,
Yeah,
come watch me dance, like, you
yeah,
know
for
what I mean?
sure.
So it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, I think too. Like I've just been studying a lot more recently about like user experience stuff and like UX kind of things, and it got me thinking a lot about just what is the user experience of like an average person coming to a typical breaking event. Because like, you know, I've been to some of them have been amazing, and they're like anyone can enjoy them, right? You could bring your family to them and they're great. Even if they're like a 12-hour kind of thing, like
Hmm.
it's something that anyone can enjoy and they don't have to stick around and watch this all day. There's other things to do. There's lots of things to do. There's food and all whatever, right? But some of them, like I would say, the average breaking event is very like dancer oriented, dancer focused, and it doesn't really satisfy like the needs of like a general public, that kind of thing. And I think that's just stuff that like people need to start thinking about more and more and more.
It just
Cause
costs lots of money to do it, right? Like,
yeah.
I feel that whenever we throw events, we
Mm-hmm.
we want to make sure that, our checklist is there, a good general viewership? Like, does the general audience have a good view
Right.
of what you're actually doing?
Yeah.
And if it's just like a regular, just an open space with a circle,
Mm-hmm.
then it's hard, because it's like, what is my mom doing here? Like, she's walking around.
Yeah.
What is she watching? Right? Like, you can't even get in.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so, balcony is, for us, the Great Hall. We always use the Great Hall, or balcony is like not even a bonus, but it's really essential for like the regular viewership.
Yeah.
And then there's the next level of like, okay, you could actually get down into the onto the ground, into the circle. So like, those that are on the balcony are like, oh, that looks so cool. Okay, I want to get in there.
Yeah.
Oh, like, so then there's that movement in terms of like how you try to encourage people to come to the circle and
Mm-hmm.
watch.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the in screen experience where, if there is a crowd, there should be a screen. There should be a screen for
Yeah.
those that can't see.
Yeah.
Um, so like, the way that we've always tried to like run events is like, you have if you you if you do have the competition, the prelims and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That is completely secondary to what the main event would be, which what we consider would be at least the top 16, top 8, and the feature battles, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
on all of our promotion, it's like, okay, the doors open at 2, but like, if you're not breaking, come at 6.
Right. Right.
The main
Yeah.
event's at 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
The live stream is at 6, 7 p.m. That's when, like, that's actually the highest amount of people, because like, everyone's still there. Everyone's still waiting to see if they made top 16.
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
right? Because after that, they don't make the screen bounce, right?
Mm.
And that's another thing about events. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you never make top 16, but you still don't also stay around to watch who made it. It's like,
Yeah.
just enjoy your peers, like, it's kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it's just the culture of what it is. It's like, events to the actual talent and the artists are their opportunity to dance. And when their opportunity to dance is gone, they wouldn't want to watch any as much.
Right.
And then that's kind of sad because it's
Yeah.
like
Well, I
it's sad to not watch. It's sad to like have people not watch. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah. But I can understand like both sides as well. But one thing that was really interesting, there's like a really good video on just like community, building
yeah.
community, and it's from the perspective of like fighting game tournaments and the fighting
Hmm.
community. And one of the things that they brought up was like, yeah, you have the main competition, but a big part of what makes those events so much fun is like, what do you call them, casuals, where they have like a bunch of different setups, and you, so let's say you
Hmm.
lose in the tournament, but you can still go and like play and
Friendlies.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or yeah, Smash community, that's friendlies, right?
Yeah.
And but like in the context of say like a breaking event, and I noticed this a lot in events in Japan, either because of the mentality here or the culture, but also just sometimes like the events just can't accommodate anything other than the main circle. But the events that I've been to that have been really enjoyable, even though we never made it past prelims, were ones that allowed for people to just continue to dance,
Hmm.
even if like you're not so interested, you just continue to dance, and like you're at least in the venue, you're staying in the venue, and like, you know. But like again, it is a mentality issue, individual issue, I think,
Yeah.
of like, or a cultural issue, I guess is what you would call it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's still a puzzle to try to solve in
yeah,
terms of
yeah, yeah.
trying to keep people um the way that I personally try to like program it is like if someone were to show up for 2 to 3 hours, then they should enjoy themselves for at least 2 to 3 hours.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so for every block of time in the schedule, there's something that they can do or
Hmm.
watch or at least be a part of. Um, even during that whole prelim time, you know, like
Yeah.
um, or especially during the tournament time, right? So
Hmm.
that 2 to 3 hours is key. It's like, can someone spend 2 to 3 hours, you know, at an event? And if they
Yeah.
can, I want to make sure that they at least enjoy themselves, and then they bring people after the next time, because they got there. It's just the hard part is getting them there.
Yeah. 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 It's all there's lots of different puzzles to solve, but it's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, it's that's why I'll never be really satisfied until like we fill up like stadium. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
that's just the way that I think, and I think there's a lot of untapped potential.
Hmm.
So
What
um,
are some of the things that you think, yeah, what are some of the untapped potentials that you kind of
exactly
see?
that, like the untapped potential is exactly the user experience
Right.
is 80 to 90% extremely positive for someone that shows up for the very first time.
Hmm.
This is so damn cool. Like, oh my god, I wish I knew about that. You know what I mean? Like for a first time like viewer, it's like, okay, yeah. If you're telling me the truth, right? Because
If you, yeah.
if you're honest, you're actually telling me that it's really cool, or you're just unless you're lying to me because I'm the organizer, and like, you know what I mean. But like if you're telling me the truth, then and if that's normally like the response that we get, then I'm pretty sure it'll be successful if three of your friends came.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And then it just has to keep growing
Hmm.
because the self-funded cycle of breaking is so difficult and
Yeah.
not and just like there isn't even enough cash in the pool itself
Yeah.
to have it self-fund itself.
Yeah.
um and it's just not, and for something that's going to the Olympics, like, it's all the different sports that I've seen in the past, like, month or so, with the World Games happening, and like all those different weird sports that I've seen that get like sponsorship and branding and support. It's
Hmm.
like breaking can get that, and we're actually at the next level already. So it's like, let's go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That next level, the future of breaking. But it's it's something like some of the people that I've talked to on this thing. It comes up a lot of like, what's the direction of breaking? It's a common discussion, but I think sometimes it's good to just realize like how far we've actually come and how things used to be when, or most of us weren't around when it started out, but
Yeah.
to see what it was like, and even what it was like, say, in the 90s. And like a lot of people look back at the 90s as like, oh, that was a golden era or something like that. But there's a lot of great things that have happened since then. And you know there's literally sponsored dancers now,
Hmm.
and that's a cool thing. It's not everybody, and it's maybe they don't make as much as like a basketball player or whatever, something like that, but still a step forward, right? And I always see these things as steps forward.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's well, that in itself is where the potential is too. That
Hmm.
there's so many different branches of where the potential is, because it's like, hey, if this organization company can believe in this individual, X amount of individuals, um, then there's so many others out there that can provide the same service,
Hmm.
the same um, type of, I guess, promotion or viewership or work, just straight up work. They can provide the same service. They can provide the same work. They can showcase their art in the same way. And a lot more companies, brands, organizations um, just have to be shown that,
Hmm.
but it's hard for them to see it because the the marketing aspect of breaking is really tough because we're all doing it ourselves.
Hmm.
Like, there's no, I can't just pay somebody. We're all doing it ourselves. We don't know how to do this. You know what I mean? We just
Well,
do it.
you got Fiverr now. You could maybe hire someone.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's the content stuff, right? But the content's like fine. Like, we have so many people that are doing great content, but it's like you can create something, but if nobody sees it, then like,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I think that's something that people don't realize sometimes. Not just about like breaking, but any of these things like that are super popular. A lot of times there's like teams of people helping this thing go along, and it's like, especially like in breaking, I just see it with a lot of people. It's like, yeah, people have a team, but it's like people are, they're not necessarily like trained professionals at all these
mm-hmm.
things, and we're just kind of trying to figure this stuff out. And
Mm-hmm.
that makes me think of it's another theme that comes up a lot, is like mentorship. And there's a lot of mentorship when it comes to just dancing, but this is like, again, like opportunities for growth within the community and stuff, is like if more people learn these other skills that are outside of breaking and then bring them back in. I mean, it's sometimes a bit of a hard sell of like, hey, learn this thing that if you just did that job, you'd probably make more money, but come back into the breaking community and like make less money or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, maybe you can talk a bit about this, is like being someone who's kind of in some ways laying down the foundation for future potential things, right? That's your idea of like, you
Yeah.
want this league, this promotion or whatever, to be able to be a thing, but someone's got to lay down the groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times those people are uh, they aren't the ones that necessarily see the fruits of their labors. So they're not
Yeah.
always those people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe can you talk a bit about that, of like just.
Yeah, man. I We're talking about laying the foundation on growth development,
Hmm.
um, on the path towards sustainability, and building like a forming like a principles based um, approach to organizations, associations, and event programming, um, and team building. It says to me, it's as simple as like understanding that um, understanding that you are good at something, okay, and fully understanding what you're actually really good at, and if you love doing it, then that's what you can provide. And until that is understood by a team, then we won't necessarily have anyone um, come on board to just fill roles just because they have to. So like as a lead, as I guess as a leader, you have to kind of do kind of everything, but it's easiest if you find people that are within the community that are actually already good at it and actually like doing it.
Hmm.
Because it's hard to like ask people to say, hey, can you start this like social media thing? It's like, yeah, but I don't like social media. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? But I need help. I need help to do the social media. Like,
yeah.
so the way that we approach it is like, okay, it's got to be from the inside out.
Hmm.
So and and the inside out process that we outline in our which is cool because I outline this in my grant applications all the time. So
Hmm.
if anybody wants to, throw a grant in like application, like you can take it. Like go ahead. You know what I mean? Like, but like it's the inside out process of building hybrid hip hop professionals.
Hmm.
So like I'm a hybrid hip hop professional as a right now I'm an engineer. I work in land development as a project engineer, but I bring like that hip hop individuality to my work.
Hmm.
And so what do you bring to the table as a breaker, as a b-boy and a b-girl? Like bringing that as a so I'm a b-boy engineer. Like others can be a b-boy, b-girl graphic artist. Like I'm a b-boy lawyer. Like, so people
Right.
got to school. Everyone's gone to school. Everyone knows what they're good at. People want to shut down school because it didn't necessarily give them a path what they thought they um, would be, but it actually told them what they don't like.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Sometimes.
you know what I mean. So it's like it gave you more information of what you don't like. So don't do that. You know what I mean? So like no one's forcing you to do anything. So do what you like, do what you love. Understand that you have peers around you that support you, that tell you that you're actually good at it, and make sure you're doing it as a breaker, as a b-boy, as a b-girl. Then people will see, and then you can either create something yourself, and people want to support you, or you join a team. So do we have like that b-boy banker? No, right now,
Not
but we
yet.
could. We could,
Yeah,
right? Why do you think?
yeah.
Why do you think Silverback supported for so many years?
Hmm.
Because he's a b-boy financial breaker. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's as simple as that. So just as long as you identify as a breaker, as a b-boy and a b-girl in the community, then you already have your foot in that community, and you already understand what it needs. You
Hmm.
know, so that's the inside out process. But on the corporate side, the outside in is as simply as like, okay, we have a viewership of this, you know, we have a fun show. We're putting together this event and it needs your support. Outside in is cash, or service. Inside out is where it's going to actually grow sustainably, where people actually like doing this because they want to see it grow. You know, so that's trying to go from the in out and the outside in. I'm thinking that's like that's our way to try to make that happen, and
Hmm.
well, we're trying. We're still trying. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's all anyone can really do, and I think there's just more people that need to try more. I think within
Mm.
the community, not just well, yeah, we can say maybe like breaking and the street dance community, because you can't necessarily say dance because like studio dancers,
Yeah, they have a business model. Fine.
they've got a
Yeah,
bit,
they.
yeah, like they get things done, and there's a viable career path for that and all these things and whatever. um but yeah, I just think there needs to be more people willing to who are just passionate about this thing and don't want to give up on this thing that they love, which is like really important, and not be afraid of like you know maybe this is not going to be like my career, but I love this thing and I want to give back. And I think that's a big part, is that idea, that sense of like giving back. you know
It takes risk. Like
yeah.
who are the risk takers? And those risk takers are the guys and girls that failed a whole ton of times that you don't know about.
Hmm.
But then what something hit, and you think that that's the only thing they did, but no, like
Yeah,
they took
yeah.
risks, right? And they
Hmm.
only put themselves out there because they took these risks, and
Hmm.
and you only see that they're actually making these moves because they took a whole bunch of risk.
Hmm.
They risk their time, they risk their um, finances, everything, right?
Yeah, a lot of things.
It takes a lot of sacrifice, takes a lot of risk.
Hmm.
But once you start to weigh out the pros and cons and look at the big picture things, at the end of the day, it's like like you fail at one thing, it's just that means that you learned it for free, or you learned something. It cost you a little bit of money, whatever.
Hmm.
It's you just learn. You just keep learning.
As long as, yeah, I think that's the main thing, as long as you're learning from that experience. If you
Yeah.
fail and then you do the same thing again and you fail, and the same thing again and you fail, that's not great. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking again of like helping to lay down some foundation for the future, I talked to Vicious a little bit about this, but yeah, just and a little bit with like Nick Robinson, although he's personal trainer of it. But can you talk a little bit about, yeah, what is it called? Breaking Canada, I think is the
Breaking
official
Canada.
title.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Breaking Canada. Vicious is the godfather of Breaking Canada, man.
Yeah. Is that the
He's the
official
he's
role?
no like Vicious is dope, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
so I'll talk about like that whole dance sport avenue.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard that breaking was going to the Youth Olympics, I was like, yo, who the hell's doing this? Like, I need to do this for Canada. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening? Right. So I was doing all this research back in 2017. Was it 2016, 2017?
Maybe,
Yeah,
yeah.
2017. Rock Harder 3. So Rock Harder 3, we had uh yeah, I think that was 2017. So like we knew that it was going into the Youth Olympics for 2018. And we're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, how do we get involved? Like, what's happening? Like, how do you do this? So I was doing all the research, and I found it. I found the Canada Dancesport, and I emailed them. I was like, yo, I got an event. I have an event in April at the Rock. You need to come. Just come, please. Like, this is what breaking is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
please come, right? So Sandy and Gord Britton showed up. It was really cool. They're the president of Canada Dancesport, and Gord is the husband. He's the um, president of Ontario Dancesport. Showed them what it's all about. This is what breaking is, and then the best is Sandy's response was like, "Yeah, it was very dark, and it smelled like weed." So yeah, my experience with breaking, it was very dark, and it smelled like weed. Um, but yeah, That's it. So like, that's where I first met that those people.
Right.
Those- And then ever since, I just continued to like just throw them emails like, hey, look at this. Like,
Hmm.
this is an event happening. Um, uh, these are the individuals that are going this. Like JK's doing this, and Emma's doing this, and Phil's doing this, and Ills, and whoever, right? So just little emails like to saying like this is what's happening in breaking. Like, um, so as the Youth Olympics help was organized, Silverback was involved because they had a North American qualifier, um, and then a couple years came a couple years after that. That's when like the whole first level of applications went through for breaking. I kept in contact with Canada Dancesport, but then I think early 2020, early 2020, Vicious is like, yo, we're doing it. I'm doing it. Like, I need you involved. I was like, okay, good. Like, so that's why he's the Godfather. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
he's
I
like,
heard a little bit of the origin story.
so he's like the guy that like, talk to the guys at the WDSF, and then they're like, yo, Vicious, we need all the people from Canada. Like, let's can you do something? And then he brought on Phil, he brought on Fleo, and he's like, oh, we need Ontario. And I was like, okay. And then he goes, yeah, good. So let's so I'm down. I'm fully down. I already know Sandy, you know what I mean? Sandy Britton. I already know Canada Dancesport. They know who I am.
Hmm.
So like, and that's kind of how it started. Like,
Hmm.
and we worked behind the scenes for a year and a half, just working during COVID, not knowing what's happening, not getting information, just throwing ideas on what this actually means,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it was a year and a half. I'd say it's a year of rapport building with another community, which is like the dance sport community, right? Just
Hmm.
like showing them what we're doing, showing them the common practices, um, doing a lot of like presentations and just a needs assessment. Like, this is what breaking needs. This is what Canada is good at. This is what is currently happening in Canada, and this is how we can get to the next level. So a lot of those kind of preparatory meetings. Then we eventually just incorporated as a non-for-profit organization, Breaking Canada.
Hmm.
However, we're not the official national sport organization for Canada for breaking. It is Canada Dancesport. So we are in a memorandum of understanding with Canada Dancesport that Breaking Canada carry out everything breaking for Canada Dancesport. So I now have a title at CDS, Canada Dancesport, as the breaking sport director.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of what Breaking Canada is. It's a non-for-profit membership body where we want to present breaking and preserve breaking in its purest form in competition as an art and as a sport, because we can benefit from both sides.
Hmm.
I've had successful grants with the Canada Arts Council, and we do have funding from Sport Canada. So it's like really, really good, really, really fortunate to be in this position where an artistic dance, performance-based dance, in competitive format, just so happens to turn into a sport that can now be supported by government levels, which is cool, really
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's really exciting to just see what's happening and how it's developing and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Zig's the best. Zig's on the team. Mary Fogarty, she's on the team. So Zig's the national director. He's like he's the guy that kind of corrals every region, right?
Right. Okay.
Okay. So he's the okay, I'm gonna he everybody will report every region will kind of report to him, and Vicious is our international relations,
Right.
He's out in Finland. He's out in Europe. He's got the ear to the ground. Oh, I get a bunch of messages. Bro, look what those guys are doing in Italy. Like, you know what I mean?
It's a
Like,
good impression.
look what they're doing in here in this country, and they're doing all this stuff. How come we're not doing this? Oh, okay. Like, we'll try. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's the support's different in every different country. And
Hmm.
yeah, Mary's really cool. She's a professor of dance and at the York University. Plus, she's very heavily invested in this whole judging system and how it can actually like be intrinsically examined
Hmm.
and to benefit athletes. So
Hmm.
and she's also our equity director, so she works on B girl programming and the growth of that too. So, and I'm the janitor, you know what I mean? Like, that's I clean stuff up. So, like, it's all good. It's good. It's exciting. I'm in a lot of meetings, man. Like, I meet with the
Yeah.
Canadian Olympic Committee, own the podium, you know. Um, and we're starting to dabble into, like, um, brand partnerships and stuff like that. We don't want to necessarily jump into the first one. You know what I mean? Like, you have to make
Yeah.
sure that it's you can't be like so surprised, like, and just like accept anything. Just try to be very grounded on that to make sure that it's we're treated properly and all that stuff. But it's
Yeah,
still a
it's a good
struggle.
match or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's good.
Yeah, the Breaking Canada's happening, man. Like, we're looking to grow. We're always looking to grow, right?
Hmm.
Like, just like, again, to find the right people involved, to find the right people that know what they're good at, present what they're good at, and love to do it, and also can also take the risk and the sacrifice as well. So, like, it's ongoing. We've got a good team. We got a good team, and we are looking to grow, of course.
Hmm.
Because it's needed. The team's needed. Like we were talking about before.
Yeah, yeah. You don't build anything on your own, and it's
Mm.
it's a good thing that that you brought up of just kind of like creating these bridges and building relations with not even just within the community, but with other communities and with other people. So you like reaching out to the Canadian dance sport people and like inviting them to come to a breaking event and like, hey, come and see this world that you're maybe potentially about to step into, or you
Yeah,
will be stepping into.
yeah, yeah.
See
We
what
didn't
it's really
know, right?
like. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean,
like,
it's
yeah,
always about.
taking that first step and not being like, there can sometimes be a mentality, not just like people in general, of like, well, I shouldn't have to do this, like someone else should do it to me or whatever. Like, I don't want to be the one that to take that first step. But a lot of time, more often than not, I think you have to be that person because
Yeah,
no one's
like
gonna no one's gonna give you anything, right?
no, like the way that it is, it's like how much do you personally think about others just to give them something,
Mm.
and it's like I don't necessarily do that. So if you don't necessarily do that, then nobody's gonna necessarily give you anything.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're waiting for people to give you something, if you personally don't go out of your way to give someone something, how can you expect to be provided something? You
Yeah,
know? So, like, it's really hard. And like, not everybody's thinking about you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's why. So, like, it's it's a hard it's hard to kind of teach that to a lot of people, but at the same time, it's like that whole risk factor. It's like you just have to go out and do it.
mm-hmm.
Do something.
Get
Doesn't
your hands
matter.
dirty.
Get your hands dirty. Try. Throw a dart at the board. Whatever.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter. And I
do
think
something, right?
I think that if people do something, if there's more doers than like acceptors, then um then I think I think we can weed through that or kind of sieve through all the talent there, and then build something great. If there's more doers than takers, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, very true. Totally agree.
Yeah,
Well, we just gotta hope. We gotta be keep people gotta keep leading by example, right?
yeah. It's like
Be the community that you want to see around.
yeah, yeah, man.
Be
I
the
think
kinds of
it
people that you want to
it
see.
might it might even be like an intimidation factor. It's like it's okay, man. It's okay to fail. It's okay to like
Yeah.
it's okay to like try something. Like
Hmm.
someone makes fun of you, who cares? Like you're a dancer, you know. You're supposed to dance like nobody's watching anyway. So if you're like dance like nobody's watching, but also act like nobody's watching too. Run your business like nobody's watching.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like do what you have to do because you like to do it, and then eventually they'll see it. So if you apply dance to everything that you do, then maybe like maybe something will happen, right? So like it just there's so much potential in breaking because it's like I know breaking kind of transforms dancers in the cipher, in the battle. Like you
Hmm.
transform into somebody different, but you don't necessarily transform. That's just you. Like, like how can you be so confident in a circle, but not confident in a boardroom? You
Yeah.
know, you
Well,
know?
I think a
Yeah.
lot of times too, it's like people gotta not learn, like recognize that there's a lot of parallels between all these different things that they do. This situation, like say a cipher, is not in a lot of ways is not so different from like a big meeting or a big boardroom or a presentation or something like that.
Presentation. Yep.
You know, like doing breaking and doing performances and things like that helped me learn to teach in front of a class of like 40 little Japanese kids who are,
Mm-hmm.
or even some of these junior high school kids. They're not very respectful.
No,
But
no,
either way, it's like, I had no experience with that, but I actually did in a lot of ways.
you did.
Yeah. And with other
Yeah.
things too, doing these interviews and things like that. Doing this helped me with other things, and other things helped me with this. And,
It's good to
there's a,
reach. It's okay to reach. It's okay to keep reaching beyond what you think that you're capable of. It's okay.
hmm. Hmm.
Just keep reaching.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's a good message for the people out there. Um, I think the last thing, at least for this session, the last thing I want to get into is it's probably the most important thing, and it's who are your top five wrestlers of all time?
The Rock is there for sure.
Yeah.
Ravishing Rick Rude for sure.
Nice.
Rick Flair for sure.
Nice.
And then the next two are like um, hard to say, but those three are my easy kind of like
Right.
Flair, Rick Rude, um, The Rock, maybe John Cena, um, and I don't know. Yeah, that fifth one is hard because it's the fifth one is probably like a technical guy. It's like probably like one of those like undeniable kind of guys, like um oh, I don't know. It's hard for that fifth one is
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
the fifth one is like a wrestler. Like you know what I mean? Like
Like a Bret Hart or something like that.
yeah, not even Brett. I wasn't like I'm a more Owen than Brett. Like
Ah.
yeah, because Owen's hilarious. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Brett's like
Right. Right.
but Owen is like so
It's
funny.
serious.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but um, yeah, it's hard to say. There,
Like
I
a
know it'll
Brian
come to me. But
Danielson kind of guy.
yeah, that kind of guy, but like not him, because the whole like 2010s, like I'd say maybe like what do they call it? The PG era,
I guess so. Yeah.
yeah, like the Cena era, whatever. Like I wasn't really watching Mondays, and I still don't really watch Mondays. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
but yeah, The Rock, Blair, Rude.
What was it about those three that makes them like easy easy top three?
Okay, because the Rock, because he's undeniable to me. He's like Um, I emulated him in high school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, plus I got
He's the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, and just the simplicity of him is so funny. It's like he's not even
Yeah.
funny. He's not even funny.
He's
Like
entertaining.
he's so entertaining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like for him to transition into like the super A lister that he is right now
Yeah, it's
is like
crazy.
ridiculous, right? So you can't deny that. And then Rick Rude because he's the best. Like like you know what I mean? Like look at it, he's a porn star that like you know, and like you know he kisses girls and he's like you know what I mean? Like he's like and he's ripped, right? So like
I always loved that he had those like the long tights, but he
yeah,
always had like these weird designs. It was like
bro, he had
people's
his face on his
faces. Yeah,
crack,
he's
bro. He
like,
had his
yeah,
face on his
yeah.
crack, on his crotch. Really, it's the best. Like you know what I mean? Like he had long tights and like the way that he like yeah. For me, it's him and then Flair because Flair's like I could watch him all day. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he's so
yeah.
funny. Like he's just so good. You know. And
His
then
his promos are the stuff of legends.
yeah, Flair's hilarious. I'm like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. I man, I love watching it. I love it. Just makes me laugh. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it just makes me laugh to watch wrestling because
Yeah.
it's so stupid. Like
I think like that's something that in some ways it makes it hard for me to get into. I know a lot of people they really like New Japan Pro Wrestling, and yeah, some of them are good matches, but like maybe part of it is a language barrier. But there's just something about the style. It's like too serious. A lot of
mm,
times, it's like, okay, well, this is pro wrestling and it's like a sport, and we're gonna treat it like a sport, and that's like a cool alternative way of looking at it. But I always really like the entertainment kind of value of
mm-hmm.
pro wrestling, or like North American style pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you can do it too much where it's like, wait, where is the wrestling? There's no wrestling anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I like that balance that a lot of North American wrestlers had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not really too um like I like action and I like fast paced. I like cool moves and stuff like that. But like um if the move is too unrealistic, it's like that's just like you can't do that. Like you know, for me, it's like I can give someone a gut buster. Like you know what I mean? Like I I can give someone like a Boston crab. Like you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
but I
yeah,
can't give someone like a
yeah,
destroyer. Like that doesn't work. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. That
stuff
move
like that.
that move is the it was the coolest move the first time I saw it, and
Yeah,
now it's the worst move I've ever seen because
yeah.
it's so
What?
overused.
Why would someone backflip? Like, how do you do that? How are you that strong? Like, you're not
Yeah,
that strong, bro. Like,
yeah, yeah. Like those kinds of things, they work in heavy moderation. Like I remember the first time I saw Rey Mysterio, it was him against Ultimo Dragon,
mm-hmm.
and it was a crazy match. It was like luchador stuff was so cool to see back then, and like the finish, what I think back then, Rey Mysterio used to do like Frankensteiner, but he did it in this way. It only worked against like other luchadors where they'd basically do a front flip.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like he'd jump up and then they'd do this like crazy flip and he'd land
Yeah,
in the pin.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, that looks amazing. But then,
yeah,
you get older and you see kind of like, oh, he's helping him.
yeah,
And so like the more you see it, it starts to look kind of like silly. And that
yeah,
Canadian Destroyer is like a perfect example of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That Hurricane Rana pin is really compact. The Rey Mysterio one, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But then again, he's like 5'3", bro.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're like wait, actually not 5'3". He's probably my height, so it's like 5'6". You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah. I think we'll cut it there, but it was really good to hear your just background and history and how you got into things and just your perspectives on dance and events and all that stuff. It was really cool.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I really enjoyed it. I mean, um, yeah. I mean, it's tons of fun.
Hmm.
I like these things.
Yeah.
You guys you're doing a good job too, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really hope that everyone who's watching and listening, you enjoyed the talk and yeah, all that stuff. If there's any ways that like if people are interested in either following you or following Breaking Canada and what's going on with that or anything like, are there any
Yeah. Just
places where they can
instant.
go to?
Yeah, it's just simple. Everything is accessible at Breaking Canada. You hit me up at Sir Blur on IG, or just check the website breakingcanada.ca or ubl.com,
Hmm.
ubl.com, and you can email me. I'm always available
Hmm.
um, to accept emails and messages. You know what I mean? Like, just hit me up if you have any questions. If you want to chat, there's a lot of information. There's going to be a ton of information, and I've got all this damn information in my head, and it's like
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like it's so unfair that nobody knows as much as I see
Hmm.
around in the whole sport world.
Hmm.
And I'd love to share that a lot easier. But it's definitely easier on like conversation, like
Yeah. Well, maybe that's something that we can get into next time.
yeah, for sure. I'm down. I'm
But
down.
everybody out there, like we were talking about today, build those connections, take the first step, and just try. So
Yeah,
reach
do
out to
it.
Geoff. He's a cool guy. He's got a lot
Do
of
it.
information.
I will support anything. You know what I mean? Like I will share whatever. I will. Doesn't take much to click share, bro. Like
True. It's really true.
you know what I mean? It's like literally doesn't
Yeah.
take much.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I'm down. Of
Yeah. Cool. Well, again, thank you. And yeah, we got to do this again sometime.
course, I'm down.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody, for listening and watching. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.